So one of the funny things for me anyway is when the conversation gets to that moment, or a person gets to that point where they're actually ready to give their life to Jesus. And it's so exciting and exhilarating for us as the people that get the privilege of leading them. I don't know about you, but my mind sometimes goes blank.
Yeah.
And so it's really helpful for me to have 3 things in my mind as kind of subject headings to help to prompt them to the prayer. Yeah, I think I've gone the wrong way.
You might have, we're in a car park.
I missed the
We missed
road.
that street. Hi, put the kettle on. We're just stopping to visit. Is that a church?
No, it's a scout hall.
Oh, okay.
So I find it really helpful personally to have 3 kind of headings in my head that enable me to lead someone naturally through a prayer and quite conversationally, but still knowing where it's leading as well. So first heading would be
Thank you.
yeah.
So we're thanking God
Yeah.
for what He's done
Yeah.
just making a way for us.
Yeah, I make sure that thank you's the first one as well, because sometimes it leads out of a testimony, so it's very natural to thank Him for who He is and what He's done. But it also puts the focus on Him, you know.
Absolutely.
And so then we'd go into a sorry kind of zone.
Where we're saying sorry to God and owning our own stuff,
Yeah.
and saying sorry for the things that I've done that have damaged relationships. So relationship with God and relationship with other people, and even to some extent our relationship with self
Yeah.
as well.
So having those subheadings are great if we have the boldness to step out and use it. I was with a group a little while ago, and there was a guy that was just, he'd heard some Jesus stories, he had God show up and do something himself, and he was just ready to give his life. But the person that was walking with him had been so surprised that someone would want to give their life to Jesus. He gave a 30-minute talk about reasons why you wouldn't, because he thought surely he's not ready yet, but he still was. And so eventually he kind of stumbled through going across the line. So I think that this is another example of somewhere where we're prepared.
Yeah.
We don't push people or cajole them into making a decision to give their life to Jesus. But when they're ready to, whether that's short or long, we're fully prepared to lead them through a prayer that will change their life forever. Well, let's go back and drop in on Mike again, because I'd love to talk to him about some of this stuff as well.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, this was a bad place to start.
Oh, really?
All right, all good.
So, becoming a Christian is not a small thing. And I mean, the immediate thought that comes to mind right now is when John the Baptist was baptizing people in the Jordan, he was really preaching a message of you have to have a change of heart. And I think that's part of the Christian message. When you're becoming a Christian or coming to Christ, it's about a heart relationship with God. So as an individual, as an evangelist, or someone who wants to see people connected to God, I want to make sure people's heart, they're willing to come to God from a state of, I need my life changed, I need God in my life, and I'm willing to give my life to Him. So if you're having a spiritual conversation with someone, oftentimes you're wanting them to take the next step towards God, or bring something new about the perspective of God into their worlds. But some people, when you talk to them, are going to be at that point of, I need God now, because I've had all these other people bring me along this journey, and I need to make that commitment today. You know, today is a day of salvation. So not to be afraid of offering someone an invitation to, would you be willing to say a prayer with me? Would you be willing to open up your heart, or just you have a conversation with God, and let's connect you with the living God, and let's see if you can say sorry for what you've done and open up your heart to receiving what God has for you. You know, so I think, yes, make an invitation. If the timing is appropriate, if the Holy Spirit is prompting you to, don't be afraid to say, would you like to pray with me now? Or would you like to go home and kneel beside your bed and open up your heart to God and just say, God, I'm sorry for my sins and come into my life. So with my job, I cut trees down, and some of the guys that I've worked with over the years have been on drugs or have never stepped a foot inside the church doors, you know. And so I've been able to talk with them about the message of God and about forgiveness. And as my moral character was a little bit different to theirs, they could see that there's something different in my life. And so they would ask me about, why don't I look at their dirty magazines, or why don't I participate in getting drunk or doing different things? And so I was able to say, listen, it's because God's real and God's got a plan for your life. And one man in particular, and I won't call him by name, but he'd never set foot inside the house of beside the church doors. But he had a heart that was open to spiritual things. And I gave him a Billy Graham gospel tract. And I said to him, listen, you need to go home and you need to read this gospel tract when you've got your bedroom door closed, and I need you to kneel beside your bed. At the very end there's a prayer. And I said, if you want God into your life, after you read the gospel tract, just kneel and ask God to come in. And the next time I met this man, his countenance had changed. He was born again. He was a new man. God had come into his world, and he was telling me radically of what God had done for him, and he started coming to church with me. I remember another time, my heart was so full to wanting to see people come to God, and I travelled all the way into the city on a Saturday night, and I met a man at Flinders Street Station, and surprisingly he was one of the first people I met out there, and I started talking to him about the things of God, and he wanted to become a Christian. He was ready. He wanted to say a prayer. So I led him in a prayer, and this was obviously back in the early days. And then I didn't know what to do after that. I led him in a prayer, and then I'm like, you need to go find a church. And then the conversation sort of petered off. I didn't really know, encouraging him more about reading the Word and about really connecting in with believers who are hungry to learn more about God and pray every day. And you can talk to God openly. It's a new relationship, You can talk to your Father. So that was another instance where I was eager, but maybe I didn't know how to follow him up.
I could sit and listen to Mike all day. His stories are so switched on, and I love how he has just spent so much time preparing himself for when things do happen. But he's not so prepared that he tries to force things to happen. But he's just, in that, I'm ready, let's see where this goes.
Yeah. I think that's the goal, I don't often get an opportunity to lead someone to Jesus, but when I do, I'm thankful that I've prepared ahead of time. But having said that, there's times when I get them switched around the wrong way and I miss a bit and all that kind of stuff as well. And I think we've got to remember not to let that put us off. We'd love to hear your stories and hear what's been happening in this zone for you. What kind of prayer do you find it easiest to lead people into salvation with? You know the deal by now. Get your phone out, upload the story, and use this page. See you next time.
Bye-bye.